Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wise Home Energy Pure Energy Show with Jeff Flaherty. And look at this. He just happens to be in the studio. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Bob. I'm really the sidekick of the show.
No,
I'm
you're
running
not.
second seat here for sure.
No. This is your stage.
It's a co-show. I think it's the Bob and Jeff show.
Well, I just make sure that you're sounding as spiffy as you possibly can technically.
Well, you keep me in line. I know that.
Well,
there's a button that you hit if I'm not getting in line.
The shut up Jeff button.
That's right. It shocks my seat.
Haven't used it yet.
Well, it's great to be here, Bob.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you and all the folks of Wise Home Energy.
Yes, we always think that there's the three wise men. We think that we got three wise women and three wise men and a few more to the team. So yeah, we're excited for the holiday season.
It's like you're a government agency. The jobs just keep on multiplying.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's crisp out there. It's been a wonderful season so far.
Yeah, as we record this show in early December, thankfully, nothing much has happened. Now, don't write to us and yell at us if after this show airs once the blizzards descend and drop 60 inches in 3 days.
It will happen, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna get it. It's we take the good with the bad around here, but
the bitter with the better.
That's right. And so, as we say, don't be cold in your home. Pick up the phone, right?
Oh, you pick up the phone, and then what do you do?
Yeah, then you call Wise, and then we come out, and things happen. And we recently went out to a home for a client who just had work done by another contractor, and a rebate entity asked us to go out and assess. And to be quite honest with you, that's not something we want to do because it's time consuming, and it's also heartbreaking to be able to tell somebody something isn't quite right, and it could have been done right, but it wasn't done right. And
before you get into that, tell us what a rebate entity is.
so there's different entities that I'm trying to be coy here, but there's rebates and grants throughout the state. So there might be the federal weatherization program, there might be the utility rebate program, NYSERDA. So any entity that kind of funds a little bit of the program has a vested interest in making sure the project was done properly. And this one was purely like a comfort complaint, and something was done wrong. And so the home had a furnace and a air conditioner installed and some insulation. And so we went out to the home and built in the early 90s, and we started doing our cursory initial investigation, really. We haven't even finished it up, but some of the things that we instantly saw, and this is a company that's a bigger company that I think sometimes because there's rebates there, maybe just going through the motions. And so down in the basement we talk about the rim joist foam. So you foam that rim, which foam does two things: it air seals and it insulates. So this is the 1 foot wood structure that's on a typical basement that your first floor sits on. And so you foam the exterior portion, but the open block. So usually that sill comes out a little bit and there's open block, and they didn't seal the open block. So that air leakage, and there's convective loop through that whole block. So that has to be improved.
So this is the sill plate that sits on top of the block wall.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. And so that knowledge has been around for decades, that you seal that area. And it was a tricky basement. I don't look forward to trying to fix that or touch that up. And then up in the attic, there was insulation blown. And so once insulation is blown, it's not something that anybody wants to dig into. You'd have to disrupt it. So we opted not to do that on our first visit. We used infrared cameras and blower door testing, and there's some recessed lights. And so when we do that blower door testing, we've talked a lot about that, where we measure the home cubic foot per minute at an exaggerated rate, which is 50 pascals. It's just a measure of pressure. So when we're at 50 pascals, we can use secondary pressure devices to measure connectivity to outdoors or to indoors. And so the attic seemed to be a little more connected to the indoors than the outdoors than we would have expected. So we didn't dig through it, but we're wondering if the air sealing was done properly. So
this is buried down in that blown-in insulation now, right?
The first thing you do, it's kind of like painting. You want to scrape and sand and prep, and then you paint. And the paint's the pretty part you see, and the insulation is all that you kind of are usually left to see. So we don't want to go dig through this whole attic just yet. And then they had a room over the garage. And so she has some complaints of some uneven temperatures. And so we've tried to dig. So the room over the garage, we've talked about that in the past, that can be quite a uncomfortable room. And it cantilevered out, so it was part over the garage and part just out in the open. And the ductwork, this is pretty typical, the ductwork will sit right over that cantilever. And using some pressure tests, we found that a couple of the cantilever floors were 32% connected to outdoors. One was 51% connected to outdoors. So that's cold over there, and that wasn't addressed.
And all of the surfaces, including the floor, are exposed to the outside.
Yeah. So we're into this comfort game, and so we try to find the pre-data to see what goes on. And the client took a long time to even find what the old furnace was. So one of my theories potentially was what happened is furnaces are generally oversized. So one quick way you can tell if your furnace or heating equipment is oversized is its design temp is in this area is usually 5 degrees or 0 degrees, maybe or 2 degrees if you go to down a little southern tier area. So we designed to that temperature, and we put this all into a computer model to determine what we're going to need on the coldest day of the year at the design temperature, it's called. Well, there's fudge factors in it because the people who made the manual J calculation, they don't want to be responsible for having too small of equipment. So they put some fudge factors in there. So we generally see it oversized as it is. So then they come and put this new furnace in, but they've tightened it up, but we don't really know how much they tighten it up because the data isn't that great. They can't really provide us with anything. So,
and again, this dates back to the early 90s.
The house dates back to the early 90s. The work that she just had done was just a year old.
Oh, okay.
So that's a good break point of why people should choose Wise Home Energy. That's because you wouldn't run into this if someone was investigating our work. You wouldn't run into this problem, and the reason being is we take lots of pictures. So not only do we take pictures at the assessment, as the work is being done, we're taking pictures of the air sealing measures. So these are top plates, the top of walls, just a 2x4. We're sealing that with a foam or a sealant product, recessed lights, all these different areas. We're taking all these pictures so you don't have to dig through the cellulose. The blower door, we would take pictures of that, and we would provide those to you. We don't really hide those. We take them all for your benefit, for our benefit, for the rebate. If someone's providing a rebate, they need the pictures. So we take all those pictures, and what you really have when you take those pictures is kind of where the last contractor left the home. That's what the conditions are of the home when we walk in the door. So then you do the work. We have the proof in the pictures, and then we retest, and now we've got pictures of that. So this is all documented. It's geotagged to the home. It's time-stamped to the day that it was installed, and that information is so critical. It really shocks me. In the land of Kodak, we are in the land of film and photography and digital cataloging of things, and how contractors aren't doing that is really disappointing. And customers should demand that. That's what they're paying for. How do you know the work is done? Otherwise, we got to vacuum out the whole attic.
So you'd actually have to remove all that blown-in cellulose?
If we wanted to verify that they properly air sealed it. We have, with the infrared camera and some of the pressure things, we have suspicions. It's indicating that there's something missing up there. It might be good enough. I don't know, that it needs to come to that point, but I think there's something missing in the attic portion. And then what happens is, so they probably did seal it down a little bit. They didn't really downsize the furnace much. So the home was already oversized. Then you air seal the attic and insulate a little bit more so it cools it down. So now the heat isn't being distributed as evenly as it could be. And so just a quick glance in blower door readings, we haven't done the manual J calculation. We would have never installed a furnace this size. And what happens is it's a 2-stage they have in there. It's at 41,000 at its low stage. So it's giving out 41,000 BTUs. We would have installed a 40,000 2-stage probably, which goes down to 28,000 BTUs. So that's really, we're designing for the coldest day, but it's never really the coldest day for many hours. So when it's 30 and 40 degrees out, you don't need that high, heavy hit of heat. You want more of a moderate, slow temp.
And tell them why. Tell them what happens.
It slams on quick. It's inefficient for your furnace to be on quickly. It turns your thermostat. Usually your thermostat is, there's one unit that tells the furnace how warm the house is. And it's wherever you put that furnace. So if people say, or thermostat, people say, oh, maybe I should move my thermostat. Well, you could do that. You could move it to the second floor. But if that temperature's 70 and your home is out of balance, your first floor might be 75. So it's just a measure to say when the furnace should come on and off. But is it slams up and down very quickly with high heat, it's not going to be like a very consistent low heat to warm up your furniture, your walls. And so
you want your temperature to be uniform as much as possible.
Yes. Yes.
So it's not like 74, 68,
yes.
73, 69.
Yeah. So, and on that regards, we just had a wonderful testimonial from a client. I'm tangenting off to a third break, right? But this gentleman was an energy kind of he was an engineer retired from Xerox, and his furnace was kind of failing, and he wanted an air source heat pump. And he called up 4 companies, and some of them were saying, "Oh, those don't really work here. People are just trying to force us to do this." And he pushed back on them, and then throw him quotes, and he had quotes all over the place. And he called us out, and we said, well, this is our process. We need to look at the home first. We can't guess from the internet. We need to test the home. So in testing and talking to him, he had a bedroom and an office that were extraordinarily cold. They were cantilevered out. He had tried to fix them in the past. He paid someone to fix them, and it didn't work. And we, science-based, went through, I don't recall the blower door numbers off the top of my head, but when we pressure tested those rooms afterwards, they were great. But his testimonial, he had an Ecobee, which can have some different thermostat data loggers throughout the home. And he said, now my home is within 1 degree between the first and second floor, and it was never like that.
What's the word? We had a little jargon alert here. An Ecobee?
Yeah, so an Ecobee is a thermostat. It's kind of similar to a smart connected thermostat. There's other types out there, but you can add on these little sensors. So they're not going to control the furnace per se, unless you set them that way. But it's just going to tell you a little bit of how the different temperatures are throughout the home.
Interesting.
And it'll show the variance. So that's the big thing. You get those data points. And so we know it works. What's disappointing is that other people don't know it works also. So, we just we want to use that tried and true science process to get to that comfort level throughout the home. And so we're still working through going back to that original story. That lady's home, we've left some data loggers, and she might be using the home a little different. Some bedrooms might be getting closed because somebody, a child's off at college. And so we're trying to figure this all out of how they're using it now. But because we don't have those pictures, and data points from where the original contractor started, it's going to be a little bit of a guessing game on our part. We're just going to kind of treat it as this is our audit and this is what we found, and go from there. And the end result is I'm don't want to be the person to say, well, it's the wrong size furnace.
But if that's true,
it's probably true.
You'll have to say it.
I will say it.
Tell the truth.
In my opinion. And we can look at that, too, with the usage, gas usage. You're not going to have a heavy usage if it's a smaller size furnace that you need.
You're listening to the Wise Home Energy Show, and the wise voice you hear is that of Jeff Flaherty of Wise Home Energy. If you're cold in your home, just pick up the phone and call.
It's 585-270-5836.
All right. Now, you brought up an interesting topic. This never occurred to me, but you just suggested it in that last case history you gave us. I suspect there are quite a few people, in our area here who use their house in that way, where they have kids that go off to college and maybe one or two rooms are not in use, except intermittently, or maybe grandma is a snowbird and she goes to Florida from November until March or April. How do you factor those things in when you're trying to do this? I mean, you're trying to come up with an optimum solution.
Really good question.
Yeah.
Really, an energy assessment is a snapshot in time. We don't know how the home is going to be used.
Moving target.
So I have a relative. I don't want to say who it is, but my mom. Keeps the rooms closed.
We don't want to give her name out, but her initials are MOM.
So, and it's what happens is the furnace and the ductwork, if properly designed, are designed to give out that flow and release that heat. So when you shut those vents, it's not a perfect system. So you're the air is still being forced over those vents. Those rooms will get colder. But the air is still being pushed, so it still could be the little cracks and seams can be pushed out into the walls, and it's so if it was designed and it's designed to fit the ductwork to the furnace, and then you close those doors and close those dampers, it's now just pushing half the load out to the house, so the furnace will come off. It'll cycle off quicker, which isn't as efficient. So it's counterintuitive. Unless that room is really, really leaky, you're probably best suited to just leave them open.
Leave them open.
If it's relatively sized. Now the counter to that is if you maybe were going to lower your furnace and maybe just use an electric space heat for one room, you'd have to kind of do the dollars to dollars or apples to apples comparison. But it's the system was designed to kind of be running at full bore, and most homes aren't. They're balancing. So one of the things that
they will be after you've been there,
right? Exactly, and even balancing, we only get into that once in a while. We kind of usually run with the existing ductwork unless there is clearly something off. But the way the ductwork was put in, it has to have the dampers already installed down in the basement typically, or we have to modify the ductwork and add those dampers. And then you really look at the CFM that the system is designed to deliver and then balance it out with a room-to-room CFM that you want delivered to that room based off its heat loss. So it might not be exciting stuff, but boy, when you're comfortable in your home, it's exciting.
Well, certainly experience helps. And you guys at Wise Home Energy have that in spades.
It really does help. And going back to, why choose us, as I said, the documenting of our work, leadership, the organization, our general managers on the board of the Building Performance Contractor Association of New York. In February, I'll be presenting 2 sessions at the Clean Energy Conference in Saratoga, and then it's really a little bit on this. It's about why some of these jobs are failing. We're not following the solid building science principles that we've all been taught, or we should have been taught, in using our continuing education. And recently we just had a client call us up and did his house 3-4 years ago, and he had some hot spots, and we came out and we said, yeah, there's some issues there. We're going to fix that. That wasn't done to our standards. So it's really, when we do a whole house job, your installation is a lifetime warranty. We guarantee the performance on it, assuming, trees don't fall through the house and natural disasters and occupants don't mess with the stuff. We guarantee the workmanship and the performance for life.
So, are a lot of people still on the learning curve, Jeff, where they think in terms of, and I think most people, I'm not trying to answer my own question here, but it just would occur to me that a lot of people would just proceed on those old assumptions. If you're cold in your home, you need more heat, or you need more insulation, or something like that, or some combination.
That's usually it. And a lot of times you're just calling the one company or the other. There's companies that are involved in a similar process as us, but they might not be using that process. So when we use our visual skills, there's something great about visual. I mean, we want to document all that stuff, but it doesn't tell us everything. So when we say, oh, you don't have enough insulation, we add our value. Well, our value is like wearing a knitted sweater outside. When the wind blows, it's going to go right through it. And that's where that air sealing comes into play. And really one of the big principles of building science is the air barrier and the insulation barrier need to be in alignment. And I say that a lot, and I'll say that in my office. But the air barrier and the insulation barrier need to be in alignment. So what happens
is... That's a little mystifying, so explain that. Yeah,
it is. And there's actually more to it, too. We want the vapor barrier, the pressure barrier, and the vapor barrier to be in alignment, too. But the air barrier, so we lay out our insulation in our attic, but any of those penetrations that go through, if air goes through it, then it's the air is not in alignment. Another good example of that is a soffit. So you might see a kitchen soffit, a drop soffit over a bathroom a vanity. And so the drywall comes down and makes a 6 or 8 inch drop and then comes over. And what happens is the insulation is on the top and it's not in line with that drywall. So inside that air, it's warm and cold, and it gets convective loops. Kind of, I like it when you have that summer day and you can kind of either see the heat coming or rising off a car, and you can see that swirling motion. That's really convection taking place. You'll see that in your home. Sometimes when the sun's glistening, you can see kind of these air movements. In those drop soffits, that air is constantly cycling, so the R value that is rated is not performing anywhere near what it is supposed to be. And the air is bypassing right through that insulation. And
soffits have got to be kind of a trouble area, because that's a place where, I don't know, it just instinctively suggests to me that it's at cross purposes. You want the release of moisture, right? I mean, out of that space.
Well, you do.
You don't want it accumulating, I guess is a better way of putting it.
So our industry has a lot of misnomers and bad terminology. So there's a couple different soffits. There's the soffit that we call outside over the overhang.
With the eaves.
Right. And so I think that might be what you're referring to. And we generally want to keep those well ventilated with a few caveats. If you were to foam the roof deck, you would not want to ventilate that. And it all goes back to design. But if you were looking for a ventilated attic where your insulation is on the floor, you want the air to come up. And then you need a proper baffle that would actually help wind wash. So you want the wind to go under the baffle. You want it to go over, and that gets rid of any excess moisture in the attic. So,
okay, yeah. Moisture was what I was trying to get to there.
Yeah.
It wasn't describing it very accurately, but it's a very sophisticated thing. It's not just size equals warmth.
It really is. There's a lot of, and I'm a data geek. One of my reps yesterday was in a home, and it wasn't that old of an home, maybe 70s built, ornate, a lot of cantilever. The architect outthought himself. But budget-wise, the customer didn't really want to do anything with the cantilevers. And my project manager said, you should really look at your attic, because, and we show all the pictures, but the delamination of the roof deck, the moisture condensing on the roof nails. He got some great pictures of how the moisture will just condense in that cold surface on the metal until the point in the air, and then it'll condense and become a kind of a raindrop. And he used our moisture meter and stuck it right into the roof deck. And it was a few different varying numbers, but 52% moisture load in the wood.
Moly. And that's inside that plywood.
So the plywood's rotting out. So in theory, I don't know his budget, but he doesn't, when we say we can't afford the attic insulation, you better budget for your new roof. Because this plywood's coming off when you go to do your new roof. And plywood is not cheap anymore. It wasn't cheap before the little pandemic, but I stole that from Bob, actually. But
I can't take credit for it.
It wasn't cheap before that, and it's certainly not cheap afterwards. But it's once it's delaminating, the roofer's going to walk across it and say it's got to come off, and that'll just keep continuing to the point where the roof will leak. So can you afford not to do it, really, is the question.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's air sealing, and that is, we didn't get into his humidifier usage. He had one on his furnace. But the humidity might be too high in the living space, and the air barrier is not in line with the thermal barrier. And that air is carrying up to the attic, condensing on the roof deck, and creating rain, basically, in the attic.
Well, that's a sad story. Hope he goes to Wise Home Energy eventually and follows your advice and gets that roof situation straightened out. Because that'll just, he can pull all that off and do a tear-off, and it's just going to start over.
We had a gentleman some years ago who declined our offer, did the tear-off, and 2 years later, he had the same problem.
2 years.
And he instantly was like, it's time to fix my attic.
Holy moly.
So,
all right. Well, we got about a minute left here in the program, Jeff Flaherty. Let's talk about Wise Home Energy a little bit, who you are and what you do.
Sure. Wise Home Energy, we've been in business since 2010, really just focusing on fixing people's homes. We're not here to sell you equipment. We're not here to sell you insulation. If you'd like to fix your home, if you've got ice dams, if you have uncomfortable rooms, give us a call. It's a no pressure, low pressure. Here's the facts. Would you like to fix it?
585-270-5836. Don't be cold in your home. Pick up the phone. Call Wise Home Energy. This program a paid advertisement by Wise Home Energy. And we thank you very much for listening. If you missed the program, it's available anytime you want at your convenience on the WYSL podcasts at WYSL1040.com. Just navigate the podcast, grab that podcast. See you next time.
If you